Now, reports say Rwanda is to be given £15 million by the UK to secure the government's plan to send some asylum seekers there. That's according to The Times, which claims the Home Secretary James Cleverly is going to fly to the capital, Kigali, perhaps as early as tomorrow. The newspaper says the money will pay for more personnel to improve and expand the Rwandan asylum processing system. Let's talk to Juliet Tinsley-Kent, Policy and Strategic Communications Manager at the Migrants' Rights Network. So it seems money being thrown potentially at Rwanda, and that's largely because Rwanda's getting cold feet over the scheme, the fact that it's dragging on for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we heard the judgment from the Supreme Court, we were very cautious. We weren't really celebrating because we knew that this wasn't going to be the end of it. We know that the government are committed to this plan and that they're going to push it through at all costs. And I think what's really important is that while the judgment may have given people in the asylum system some kind of temporary relief, we know that they're scared about being sent to Rwanda, and that the government will do everything in its power to push this plan through.
Why do they need to be scared?
Well, I mean, the government is very intent to kind of dub Rwanda as a safe country, but people came to this country because they thought it would be some form of sanctuary, that Britain was a place that respected human rights, and many of these people were coming from Commonwealth or ex-colonies and thought they'd be welcome. But instead, when you're living every single day in limbo, we know some people who've been waiting 3 years for a decision, you're already facing a lot of uncertainty. To be have this nightmare hanging over you of being sent somewhere where your rights may not be protected, because of who you are, your identity, and you've already fled persecution, to then be kind of given this threat of being sent somewhere where you may be put back into a situation where you're not protected. That is terrifying, and it just adds to the uncertainty that these people feel every day.
Is there any alternative open to the government? It seems, despite the Supreme Court ruling against this plan, the government is doing everything it can to make sure it goes ahead.
Well, I mean, we have to kind of think about why it is that, or who it is that the government is trying to send to Rwanda. For example, when Russia invaded Ukraine, we kind of the government understood that there were root causes, that people were fleeing war, and they put a scheme in place. And I'd like to add, that's not a perfect scheme, it is still very precarious, but they made a scheme available for Ukrainians. And what they should be doing is investing in that similar infrastructure, those similar safe routes for people to come here safely, and also invest this huge amount of money that they've invested in this plan. It's 50 million on top of 140 million that's already been invested. What they should be doing is investing that into safe accommodation for people while their claims are processed, in giving money to local authorities to support people and helping people settle into communities here, rather than outsourcing our asylum system and our protection duties. We should be looking at how can we actually help people and help people come here safely.
And both Tories and Labour say immigration's too high, but when we come to talk about migration, should we be having a more open conversation, given the fact that many will say that health and social care services might collapse without these workers?
Absolutely. I think our entire attitude and conversation on migration just needs to change. What underpins our conversation and our policies on migration is that we see migrants as a threat. That is the way they're constructed. The hysteria around migration figures just kind of shows that we kind of see migration as something to be feared. And I think we need to ask ourselves why that is. As you said, health and social care workers are an integral part of our society. They are people who should be celebrated, and instead we need to stop kind of thinking about ways that we can make our already hostile system even more so, and try and see migration as something positive rather than something to be feared.
It's the number one priority, though, isn't it, for people out there, for voters? And this is what the parties are going to be playing for, is the votes coming next year.
I think migration has been made to be number one issue. I actually think for a lot of people it probably isn't. But kind of focusing on migration, on migrants, it's the oldest trick in the book. When there is times of instability, we're facing a cost of living crisis, people can't afford to pay their bills or feed their family, rather than us kind of looking at what is it that is making our lives difficult? What is it that's making things more harsh? We're kind of told to scapegoat migrants, that they're the root of the problem. And what we should learn from history is that's not the case. And I think we need to start looking at what policies are making our lives more complex, and it is not migrants.
All right, thank you very much indeed for your time today. Julia Tinsley Kent from the Migrants' Rights Network.